Okay, rather than doing a live broadcast, I'm going to do this as just a recorded video. So we get the audio adjusted a little bit. All right, so I am taking a look at this gear part from Mirek on eMastercam. And so he was asking the question, how do I fix this unified toolpath? Let me turn off the fixture and the subplate, and let's just go ahead and turn off the gear as well. So you can see that he's made a surface and has got this unified toolpath on it. And unfortunately, because of the way the surface is constructed, likely, or some of the parameters of the toolpath itself not being correct, you can see that the tool actually dives down and violates the surface. So if I, back plot this down through the top, you can see that eventually we hit a section of the toolpath that clearly violates, and it's likely that it is actually just checking one side of the toolpath. So it's like, oh, no problem with this tool, I'm tangent over here, but it's ignoring that backside. And I played around with this a little while, tried to use some of the other tools that are in here, some of the retract functionality to get it to pull the tool back up and thereby attempt to eliminate these sections of the toolpath that are violating the surface, but that just turned into a big mess. So and I'm sure there's a way to get unified morph to work fantastically on this surface. But I also, when I'm faced with problems like this, I like to go back to the basics, and I like to make sure that the geometry that I'm driving looks good. So if I add another group here, new toolpath group, and I have my only display selected geometry box checked, I can actually click down in this empty group and hide the toolpath that's displayed. And then I can do an Alt-S on the keyboard. And with the way that this surface is displayed, with the grouping of the grid lines, like the density of the grid lines, it doesn't look super bad. But if we really want to see what it looks like, I'll shade it again down through this really weird fillet transition area. I mean, I look at this and say, well, there's a lot going on. So the modeler is trying to take the face of each of these gear teeth, bring those two faces, those two teeth down to where they intersect, and then put a fillet there. Well, however it was modeled in that solid, it looks like the results aren't great, but with this resolution in the unshaded mode, it's hard to see. So what I'll do is I'll select that surface, I'm going to right click, I'll choose the set all function, and this is going to bring up the attributes panel, and in the attributes panel I will toggle on surface density. Surface density is a scale, believe either from 1 to 15 or from 0 to 15. So 15 is the max. I will typically do 10 just to see how it looks. I'll select OK, I'll do Alt-S, Alt-S. You notice it still hasn't changed, and so what we need to do is regenerate the screen display. They actually took that button away as a default button, so you actually have to go to the home ribbon, come over to the very end of the ribbon bar and use Command Finder, and then when it comes up I start typing in REG, and you'll notice regenerate display list commands not in the ribbon, regenerate screen. So I'll double click this, and you notice that it regenerates that display, and now we can actually see this really interesting tight curvature. Okay, and so what I'm looking for is, how do the grid lines, the UV directions, look across the surface? Are they even? Where do they cross over? So for example, you can see this grid line here follows the floor of that radius, but then it shifts over. So it's kind of shifting from the right wall to the left wall in this view, and maybe back over. You notice it kind of comes down here. So there's a wide spacing here indicating less curvature, and a tighter spacing here indicating a tighter curvature. And so our challenge is, are these surfaces well constructed? And if not, then we need to look at rebuilding them. So if I go to the levels and I turn on this worm gear level, you can see that doesn't look super bad. This surface was likely created off of this solid tooth. So I'll go ahead and shade it, and you can see indeed it's got a good overlap. It's got that kind of bleed through stippling pattern. So that's at least it matches the solid geometry pretty well, but it's still not the greatest. So what we'll do is let's just make a new one. Go to level number 20 here. I'll give it a name. We're going to call this new surface reconstruction. Let's hide the other surface that's there. Don't know what that is, but we'll go ahead and get rid of it. So what I'll do now is go and let's just check the color. My surface color is orange. Let's do like a darker green. And I will do surfaces from solid, click on that gear face, and it's going to generate a surface for me. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is set a new surface color, and let's use, I don't know, a blue for this one. Something that'll stand out. I'll use a darker blue. And what I'm going to do now is create some additional geometry just so that we can view it, see what it looks like if it was not all trimmed up. Does that change the actual curvature of those surfaces or not? So I am going to, let's change levels. Let's make this level 21. Okay, I'm going to call this manufacturing solid/surf for comparison. We've got a new level here, and let me just give it a save, and I'll do model prep. I'm going to do, before we do that, I've got no entities on this level. So I'm going to select the solid, I'm going to right click, I'm going to use the change level function. We're going to copy this, we're going to use the active level, we'll say OK, and I'll turn the main level off. I'm going to do a remove history on that solid, and I'm actually going to change the color as well, just to indicate, hey, this is in fact a copy. And if we turn level 1 briefly back on, we should see that there's some overlap. You may have to run regenerate display list. So here's our solid on level 21. We'll make 20 the main level, turn 21 off. We can turn level 1 on. We've got a solid. We can turn 21 on, and we've got another solid, different color. So we're looking good. I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to go into the modify feature function, and we'll choose the operation for modify solid feature, and we'll set it to remove. I'll look at this in the front view so we make sure we know which section we're working on. It's this section here. So the first thing I'm going to remove these, not these. I'm going to remove these chamfers on either side of the tooth. Okay, so what we've done, just taken away that little chamfer. Now I'll take away these little scallop cuts, and you can see, okay, this is what that tooth face looked like before those features were put on. And I can actually remove that top feature there. And now we can see what that surface would look like before any of the other cuts were done to it. So what this allows us to do now, we can go to surfaces, create a surface from the solid, and you can see when I display the trimmed surface over the top of kind of this untrimmed surface here, the difference. And so what I'm trying to do is not only rebuild the surface, but make sure that I'm getting the curvature right from the correct original geometry. And if I need to extend the cut so that the tool goes either up and down past the surface edge or back and forth past the surface edge, that the extension also looks correct. So really, in order to do that the best, I would actually untrim all of that geometry or remove all of those solid features all the way around, and then extend these faces a little bit. It's a lot of work to do to prep that solid. So one of the things I can check is if I go analyze that surface, analyze entity, I'll come to my quick mask over here and say select only surfaces, and I'll click on that surface. It is a trimmed NURBS surface. So I'm going to select that surface, I'm going to right click, let's copy it to 22, force the visibility off. I'm going to save the file, and then in level 22 I'll turn all the levels off. We'll do a regenerate display list, just because anytime you're working with these surfaces I recommend you do that. And now I can do surfaces untrim. So I do this untrim, and you can see there's actually this kind of wild swoop to the top of this surface. Now, I don't know if that's specifically the way that the tooth profile was created, or because we're going from one shape to this kind of trimmed outside shape. But I'll select OK, and if we turn on the manufacturing solid, you can see that when this thing is untrimmed, it's got some really strange geometry. So I definitely like the shape of the trimmed surface much more than I like the shape of the untrimmed surface. But this can also help show with that untrimmed surface just why the toolpath might be looking a little funky, looking a little weird. So let's go in here, set the attributes. Let's set that surface density to 10. I'm going to do a regenerate display list. Okay, Then we can see that, you know, that kind of funky geometry down at the fillet radius. And then how this untrimmed part, you can see that that surface really kind of pulls because of this weird kind of swoop. And it looks like there's, especially in the middle here, there's this area where the shape is convex, and then potentially an area where it goes concave right here out at the ends. So it's very interesting, kind of weird geometry for that tooth face. We could, for example, go back and see if we can extend it out naturally. You know, if we go in and we try, for example, to delete some of the adjacent faces, does that work? Or do we simply need to remove all the features around the outside and then try to extend these edges here? One of the reasons we might want to untrim it. So if I look at this surface here, the question is, can I go to extend? And let's just do 20 thousandths. Let's try it linear. Ooh, by distance, linear 20 thousandths. And can I do it on either edge and have it work well? Okay, that gives me a 20 thou extension. I think I can live with that. It's really, you know, important when you're doing surfacing work like this that you can do things like extend that surface out past the edge. Now here's what I was concerned of. We do this extension, and it looks like there's a little bit of a ripple in the surface. So again, to find that, I'm going to go in and let's set the density. Let's go a little denser this time. Let's go to 12. Let's do a regen on the display list. And you can kind of see it right there. So there's this bit of waviness, and those are the kind of things that we want to try to help eliminate by rebuilding the surface. So I'm not sure that if we just removed all the features on the solid and extended the solid either side by 20 thousandths, that it would help this geometry at all. The geometry is just kind of very weird and interesting from the get-go. So my preference on something like this is to rebuild it. And we can either start with this extended surface or this kind of untrimmed surface. Oop, let me do Alt-E to bring it back. There we go. So at least this one is pretty clean when I look at it. Here you can see that it does have some of that weird swoopiness, even though the top edge is nicely trimmed. And this is where, you know, we have to kind of go back to first principles of what shape are we trying to create. So we'll use this one first. And what I'll do